Welcome to Kathryn Raaker's World. Innovation, culture, adventure, traditions, this is Kathryn Raaker's World.
Hi, this is Kathryn Raaker of Kathryn Raaker's World, our syndicated television show, and Let's Just Talk, our syndicated radio show. And I have the honor of having John Goodwin, the president of Galaxy Press, and Carmen Bartolo, who is the multimedia person and right-hand guy for John. So is that a good idea? I thought so. Anyhow,
that works.
But you are out in the thick of things with the fires in California, and you are experiencing it, you're volunteering it. And so we're going to start with Carmen, if you don't mind. I want to welcome to the show. John, I want to welcome you to the show. And thank you for your service and what you're doing. Let me ask you a question, John. When did you first experience it almost down the street, a half a mile from you? When did
Less
that
than half a
happen?
mile, yeah. So last Wednesday, I was I'd been doing several podcast interviews. I had several interviews scheduled, and I'm right here on Hollywood Boulevard. I'm a block away from the Chinese Theater, to give you a point of reference. And we're about 2 blocks away from the Hollywood Hills, which is right behind us. So no, we're between 1 and 2 blocks. So started hearing all these fire trucks. So I kept on having to pause my microphone, and then I finished those things. And then a bit later in the afternoon, I was talking to Emily, my wife, before in my office, and I kept on hearing these fire trucks. I said, something's going on. So we went upstairs, went up to the roof, and it was surreal. It was like one of those Hollywood movies. The Hollywood Hills is like maybe between 4 and 5 blocks, less than half a mile from us. And over the ridge of the Hollywood Hills, it's the same one where you see the Hollywood sign. You see these huge flames coming up, and they were coming over. The winds were gusting 40 to 60 miles an hour. So the flames were being pushed towards us, and just seeing them literally racing down the side of the mountain towards us was like one of those OMG moments that was, it was eerie, but it was very scary, because with the wind blowing, it was just like really bad. So we quickly mustered up all the staff at the office, and everybody, because this was just about between 5:30 and 6 in the afternoon on last Wednesday. And so we all got all the hoses we could find, all the buckets we could find, and we immediately started hosing down everything, because all it would take would be one stray ember coming over, landing on something, and you used to have another fire starting here. So for the next 3-4 hours, we just had it going. And because the winds were so strong and it's so dry here, everything would dry out, and like the plants would dry in like maybe 10 or 15 minutes. So we were constantly having to water the trees and the sides of the buildings and anything that was flammable, to make sure that if something did fly over, because I said it was 46 miles an hour, and it was less than half a mile. So if an ember came up, then it would have flown over and could have landed on us. So they were evacuating the area, and it was just a total gridlock where we were. It was a mandatory, well, I don't say mandatory, but because we were there, there's a few places that people were actively trying to protect their properties, but we had our hoses going, and those that didn't have a hose, we'd go to a spigot. If we didn't have enough hoses, fill up buckets, and we were just throwing the bucket water all over the place to keep it so it was wet. And finally, and the thing that actually turned the tide was when the winds died down about 10 o'clock at night. So the big push of the flames coming our way died down. But with the winds dying down, the helicopters carrying all the water were able to come and start dropping water. And you could see them, they'd fly right overhead, and they're very low. And so it was flying overhead, and it was, they drop, and they'd keep, and you'd see the water, the flames would dry down again. Then they pick up again, because it was so dry, so much brush there, hopefully the policy in LA changes, like to clear the dead brush off, not just let it stay there. But it would just catch on. And we kept a watch going all night long. And about 4 o'clock in the morning, the you can hear behind me that I'm like right on Hollywood Boulevard. This is the standard sounds of Hollywood.
I know. We can't hear them, but go ahead.
Okay. They just had 2 fire trucks go by. So the flames shot up again at 4 o'clock in the morning, and we almost all got called back in again. But then they had fire trucks and fire vehicles on standby, so they immediately put it back out again. So we didn't have to come back in and do that drill all over. But
what's going on now? This
has been 4 fire trucks so far. So I don't know what that is.
No. What I mean is, are you still in danger where you are?
I don't think so. Up until those last 4 fire trucks going by, I wasn't. But
in other words, you're still getting fire trucks coming up.
Yeah, we just had 4 go by as I've been talking to you. So I'd like to say yes, that everything's all fine. I mean, we definitely have a drill now on what to do in case there is a fire. So we definitely know that. There was yesterday on La Brea, which is about a block away from us, there was a big apartment structure that burned down.
Oh my
So,
God.
Wow.
yeah, so it's one of those things here that you need to definitely prepare. And you see some of the stories of people that save their homes, like one person knowing where he was and that there's fires every year. It's one of those things, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know what we're dealing with where we are here. Technically, Los Angeles is a desert area, and it's been built up, but it's a desert and it's dry, and it's, the rainfall is very questionable quite often. So he put in a swimming pool and he filled it up, and he bought a pump that he stuck.
Awesome. Great idea.
Yeah, but he put the one end of it in the swimming pool, and then he had a big hose and he watered down his house, and then he saw that he had it under control. This was in, I think, the Palisades. It was either Palisades or Eaton. And then he watered down the house next to him, and then he created a fire break. So his home and his neighbor's home was saved, and then the 4 houses behind him, because it created a fire break as it was mowing through the community, also were saved. So there are stories of people surviving that. That's not something, unless you're prepared for it and know what you're doing, I wouldn't recommend it, because there's also the story of the guy that was found burned with the hose in his hand.
I want to ask a question here, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
All right. The question is there any reservoirs that are near you that are filled? And why aren't there enough reservoirs?
Well, the one next to us was filled, and that's what provided the water for us. So that's good. This is something that Em and I will go hiking around it every now and then. It's a huge reservoir, so that made a big difference for us. The other reservoirs, it's hard to say what the actual truth is, why they were empty, because the last time I checked, the definition of a reservoir was a deep hole in the ground that you fill up with water,
right,
as a reserve of water.
And you don't send it in the ocean, right?
Yeah. So that there, I'm gonna see, that's one of those mysteries of life. How somebody could.
Was very well said. I want to say
Thank you.
Now, Carmen, I want to ask you what you're doing and your organization is doing to help the people that are out there with nothing or food or whatever. What are you doing as a group?
Well, to start with, we're staying alert, just because I'm in an area that's kind of between everything. So I'm relatively safe. And I've had, lots of people call me. And I mean, one of our winners from New Zealand, was emailing in and asking, are you guys staying safe? So that's good. But one of the things I actually last weekend, I was out with the Church of Scientology Volunteer Ministers group, And we actually have over 1,000 volunteer ministers, and you don't have to belong to the Church of Scientology. You can just, as a matter of fact, there was a team that we put together um, last Sunday, and it was me and another gentleman that I know from the church. And then we had three other people, and none of them were Scientologists. They just wanted to help and volunteer. So it's a great program. Um, it's incredibly well organized. You just go into the church, you say, yes, I want to volunteer. You know, you get to don this
Famous
our
yellow.
yeah, our famous yellow t-shirt and hat, and you're deployed to a site. You go out there, there's somebody in charge out there. They say, this is what we're doing. You know, we were just basically cleaning up the neighborhood because there was so much, from the winds, there was so much just organic debris. You know, there's branches, there's leaves, there's everything out on the streets. And we were just cleaning that up basically in this one area of Altadena where one of the fires were, and well, it's still going on, I believe. And uh, there had to be at least like 70 people all together with that were working, and there's shovels provided, rakes, brooms, bags to store the debris in, and it just put it on the side of the road. And it's just it's actually just great morale and teamwork. There's just great teamwork going on. Everybody's like in sync. There's good direction as far as what we're doing and when we're doing it. And yeah, it's actually a lot of fun. So
Well, the
Then
one
just so you know
thing,
that this program, the volunteer minister program, actually started after 9/11 in New York.
okay,
Um, and that was the first time that, they put together in mass, and they were there. They're helping the New York Fire Department, New York Police Department. They were helping bring order and to clean the place up. And that was I believe it was the only um, governmental agency allowed on site to help because the firemen were just exhausted. And so they were they were assisting them to be able to recover from everything they're going through. Um, and then it's since grown to an international organization where every major disaster, you'll find the volunteer ministers there helping to restore order, because that's one of the main things that happens. He's talking about cleaning up the area. After a major disaster, you just there's all the destruction. You see, the things torn down, the broken pieces, just the stuff that like is very upsetting. It's like when you walk into a room that's messy, you feel kind of like, I got to do something or clean it up. And until you clean it up, you can get upset. So imagine it on a huge scale. So that's one of the main things, or one of the key things that the volunteer ministers do, is they'll clean up all the stuff. They'll help, the trees that blow over on homes after hurricanes and earthquakes. They'll help pull that off, cut it up, provide water, help locate, missing pets with their own, just different things that helps bring order. And it's amazing. And right now, it's one of the best well-known non-political volunteer organizations in the world, because it's been going on since, like I said, 9/11 is when it really made its heyday.
mhm.
And it's just every major disaster, you'll see pictures of and it's known that they're the yellow shirts. Sometimes they're just called, here comes the yellow shirts, because that's what it's known as. But here in Los Angeles, it's unfortunate that, it, as much as it's known that we have these fires every year, because it's not like this necessarily. I did check before this interview. The Camp Fire, which was in 2018, was the biggest fire in our history. It was 153,000 acres with 18,000 buildings destroyed. But the Eaton Fire, the one it's like a quarter. They're calling it a quarter out or something like that. That's 14,000 acres and 7,000 buildings, but that's neighborhoods. That's not just like wild country,
Right.
that's in actually, neighborhoods with homes and buildings and schools. And then the fourth biggest fire in history of California is the Palisades fire, which is 23.7 acres. And that's over 5,000 buildings that have been destroyed. So it's
Palisades is exactly where, for people that don't know California that well, I know Palisades. I mean, I know
it's on the coast, which is like crazy. It's right there on the coast. You know, you got the homes right along the shore, and then you cross the Pacific Coast Highway, and then up into the Palisades, where it's those bluffs and whatnot. But it's right around Santa Monica and north of there. So that's where that is, and some primo property, primo real estate, so it's just the amount of destruction is in the mega billions of dollars. And what's unfortunate too is within the last 4 months, insurance companies have been canceling fire insurance policies.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
most of these homes that were destroyed and buildings are no longer insured. So that's its own nightmare that's coming into play once dealing with the actual destroyed property. Now the ability to rebuild is very much the next hump to be overcome.
I think what's going to happen, okay, with the new administration
Mhm.
is they're putting some things in there that if they don't do what they need to do, so you won't have these. This is a really one of the major disasters in California,
Yeah,
because
definitely.
they were cutting money from the fire department. They weren't building the reservoirs they were supposed to do. They weren't getting rid of the brush. There were so many things that led, and then your mayor from Los Angeles went on a trip. Give me a break. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not talking politics here. I'm just saying that it was a lot of different things and it's Joe burning.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, what
it's
you
not
got
nice.
here, that there's been more priorities on this thing called DEA, instead of infrastructure. And that's the main problem. There hasn't been any real dealings with infrastructure in Los Angeles for maybe forever, but definitely for decades. And so the Eaton fire, I think, has pretty much been established. That was a power line going down that caused it to happen.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so that's like such a common story now to California fires that, if somebody would have actually directed, okay, let's put the power lines underground, so because we have high winds every year. That's just the Santa Ana winds come in, and in some areas, if they're really strong, they'll gust over 100 miles an hour. That's hurricane force. And so the power lines get knocked down. They strike something because also with those winds, they're coming in from the desert, so it's really dry, so it dries everything out.
Right.
So it's a perfect opportunity for to start. Perfect storm, yeah. So you've got that happening too. So I think, I saw a recent, comparison to the hurricane destruction in Florida and what the governor did there. I said, okay, let's get everybody in here. Because there was estimates it was going to take however extensively long to rebuild. And he said, okay, so what do we need to do? He brought in all the experts and said, okay, we need this, this, and this. And the next day they had it. And they rebuilt that one bridge crossing the bay in I was like 3 months or something like that, which would have said it's going to take 3 years to do. And he said, no, I disagree. And so just with some savvy on infrastructure and what's the actual role of a government to provide for, and that's you got to make it safe for the people to live. You got to, and it's it's a difficult thing here in California because it's got some of the highest taxes. It's got the high, cost of living.
You're losing
continues to go up.
right?
What's that?
You're losing people in the sense of businesses because they can't afford it. And a lot of people that I watched in the last couple of days, John and Carmen, let me just say that, John and Carmen, is that they can't rebuild. They don't have the insurance to rebuild it. They don't know when the government's going to rebuild it. And it's cheaper to go to Texas or another state.
Yeah.
To be able to do it. And I mean, I have family there. I do.
Yeah.
And I worry about you guys all the time and I've been there when the Santa Ana winds
Below, yeah. Yeah.
and my daughter used to live near Santa Monica, so she lived at Hermosa Beach, so I knew that area really well. And
Yeah.
I know when I come out to see you guys, which I want to do more often.
Yes. Like maybe April 10th before you go someplace else on April 13th. But anyway, more on that later for the Rise to Future Gala.
Yeah, right. I might be able to come out for one day for the gala, and then I have to go to the other place, I mean,
Exactly.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I was really thrilled at the program. I was really thrilled at the Taglia Center. I was really excited about meeting the judges and the contestants and the winners.
Yeah, and I loved having a great podcast interview with you and your son.
Yes, and we did. Well, I was going to say that, but it's your program, not mine.
Yeah.
So, some news. I'm doing the audiobook.
Yay.
Oh, good.
Next week, because they're driving
Awesome.
crazy about it. And my son's already started writing the second book.
Sequel. Good. Good.
Yes.
That's great.
It's going to be in Turkey this time.
Wow. All righty.
That's an
Well, hopefully
interesting
Los
city.
Angeles is still here when you're ready to come out to do your next interview.
I hope so. I know the new ambassadors for is John Voight and Rambo.
Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah, we saw that. That's like, no,
it's Mel Gibson.
It's unfortunate that you've got, and I got to say this, because I intentionally on my social media, like I keep it down the middle. I don't go politics, I just keep it. For me, it's about my friends, or it's about the contest and creatives, writing and art, which was originally what L. Ron Hubbard created it for. And so I can't post anything, even if I posted, different political people I've known on both sides of the fence. Immediately it engenders hate speech from the opposite side. I'm like, come on, and so we see, like with the thing with Sylvester Stallone announcing that he's working there with Trump and some of these other people that were famously known as liberal and now switching to Trump, and there's like just the various hate that's going on. It's like, we need to come together. We need to make this.
I think that's the reason why Mr. Trump, or President-elect Trump, who's going to be the president, actually did things so differently this time.
Yeah.
I'm excited about, Robert Kennedy, Tulsi Gabbard. I mean, I
love Tulsi. I just we met her several years ago. Emily's got some pictures with her when she did an event here in Los Angeles for, I think it was Veterans Day. Right. And it was so great. She's, I think it's not right to call her a sweetheart, but she really is such I like her a lot. She's got a very level head.
So many people that really care about our country. And it doesn't matter if you're Republican, Democrat, liberal, independent. The idea is that we're all one nation.
Yeah. And
we want our children and grandchildren to get the best of everything. In the sense of what's put out there, like your program that you do for Galaxy Press, for the international,
writers of the writers of the
traders and writers of the future. I mean, that gives people from all over a chance to do creative writing and illustration.
That's right. And we've had winners from 50 different countries.
That's right. So that's the way I look at it. You guys are my friends, have been my friends for a long time. And Carmen, if Carmen doesn't remind me, I am not there.
Well, I'll definitely remind you. So,
definitely. But I want to say one thing about Carmen. That's all right.
Okay.
He's a very talented musician.
Thank you.
He is.
Thank you.
So one of these days, when I come out, I hope to hear him play.
There you go. Well, we'll have to coordinate that.
I grew up, Carmen, with all creative people, including my dad, who I miss terribly. So, when you all told me what you do and on the side, right? And John is such a character when he goes on to these book fairs. I just love it. So, and we have to keep writers. We have to keep illustrators and creative people in this world, or it would be kind of a sad world, really, when you think
People writers and people illustrators, not
right.
AI writers and not AI illustrators.
That's right.
People.
That's right. An AI came on my computer today and wanted to take over, and I went, wait, no, you're not getting in there.
Fine.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's the way it is. But I got to tell you, I'm so proud of you two. I'm so proud of your mission on what you're doing in the creative world and the idea that you're helping people. And that's what happened in South Carolina. South Carolina and all those states, think about it. So you boys are going to be giving me, or you men are going to be sending me the stuff for the new programs that you're going to be doing, right, Carmen, and right, John?
Oh, definitely.
You start interviewing some of those people
That's right.
need to.
Yeah.
And so I can't thank you enough for joining me today and giving our audience what's really happening in California, because you two are on the ground,
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Definitely.
We're here. And so there's, the thing that the media likes to do, the scare. So people are totally freaked out. It is very, very bad, but it looks like all of LA is burning down. I made a little joke about that, but it looks like it because that's what they're going to take. It's boring to take a look at a picture of the 95% of Los Angeles, which is just there, So the parts that are burning it is a catastrophe. It is a disaster. I would not for a moment try to underplay what has actually occurred here. And the fact that it could have been prevented by having the proper infrastructure put in place, by having reservoirs that were actually reservoirs, by having a fire department that was funded and had the equipment able to be fixed so that it could stay
hydrants that have water in them.
Yeah, all that stuff there. That's that contributed to the disaster, and that's unforgivable. Specifically knowing we go through this almost every year with fires, and to have something like that setting up, the whole mentality of like, well, that won't happen again, or it can't happen again. Lightning never strikes twice in the same place. Blah blah blah.
That's not true, as we know.
It's so not true, And so, fortunately, now with what's going to be happening in the near future, that type of mentality is being replaced by a common sense, let's put together, the basics so that we can really, survive as a country and let Americans be Americans and really flourish and prosper.
But I want to thank you. So would you please give your website where people can get in touch with you for the writers and
illustrators of the future? Yes, that's writersofthefuture.com. And that has the how to enter the writer contest, how to enter the illustrator contest. It also has the history of Elvin Hubbard as creating the contest and the history of the contest. We've got the free online writing workshop. We have the podcast where you can find this famous show host, Kathryn Raaker, that was a guest once last year. And there's
a lot of people think a podcast is not what it is. Okay, but it's also on the internet. It can be on Rumble. It can be on YouTube. It can be on other avenues, including yournews.com, which you are on all of those now because
wow, that's great. Yeah,
on all of those. So, it's important to get that news out. And thank you so much. And please be careful and take care.
Thank you very much, Kathryn.
You're welcome. And